Something that gets overlooked these days is preserving language. The Native American language is an example. Uh, there are over 570 federally recognized tribes, and only about 47 of them actually get funding to help preserve these languages, to fund the educational programs, to help the younger generations learn these languages. When you look at it, the only true history and the true examples of this language is within the elders of the community, and we all know at this time they're close to being gone. Uh, After that generation dies, we don't have any more. Um, those communities don't have the available living history to tell stories, to teach, to educate. Um, it's hard. When you look back in the early 1900s, when the U.S. government started Indian boarding schools, that's that generation. They were forced to learn the ways of Europeans and forget their culture and forget everything they knew. Um, whether that's language, whether that's their heritage, their culture, their beliefs, it was stripped from them. They were just forced to do something in a way that they didn't know how to, and they didn't understand why they were having to. In other words, for every dollar the US government spent eradicating these languages over time, only about 7 cents is actually being used to revitalizing these for every dollar that was spent. When you look at it that way, it's very disrespectful to a lot of these communities and these elders, and it's sad because the people of my generation, we won't be able to hear that living history anymore after our elders are gone. And with that, you know, preserving the Native American language hasn't been a high priority. When you hear the word spiritual, that wasn't an English taught word. That's something that comes from culture that comes from heritage, that comes from beliefs. Um, Not something that can be taught. It's something you're born into. Um, so just recently, the University of New Mexico actually started a project to revitalize an old Apache language. There's transcripts from the late 1800s in Old Apache that nobody can speak these days. It just doesn't exist because once again they were just forced to give up what they knew. And now they have the proper funding to explore these transcripts, and they might have found somebody of older age that is still of cognitive mind to help transcribe these, and for all these stories to be told. And that's living history. That's stuff that should go in history books. um, when you think about how these cultures and how these tribes were treated, they were almost like they weren't understood. These English settlers, pictured them as pagans, because they expressed their spirit and their nature, and it wasn't something that could be taken, but it was taught. Um, the elders taught, no matter what, even when the Indian boarding schools tried to take it from them, they were still able to instill some of those, culture traits, and that's what we are living with today, as that last, generation is holding on strong. So that brings us to the last point: is that it's not a shame. You shouldn't be ashamed to be a Native American if you are. Um, it's not looked down upon to go to school as a Native American in a Native American community. Um, if anything, it's taught me how to speak for myself and stand up for what I believe in. Um, it's just educating ourselves, educating our communities. The reason why I chose this topic is it's because it's something that speaks to me. And I would have never known about this unless I didn't go to school and I didn't educate myself. So I think that going forward, I think that's the best thing that we can do as individuals is just speak up for what we believe in and don't let anyone tell us different.